Cemetery. I'm not related to him or the family, although I do have a connection with World War II. My grandfather was in D-Day and a POW in World War II, and I carry his name. But we're here tonight to hear the story of Edward Gill, Private First Class in the United States Marine Corps. He was killed in action in Iwo Jima in the Pacific. There's not a lot of information available, but what we do have, I have compiled together. Edward Henry Gill was born May 17, 1917, and was killed while in the service of his country on March 6, 1945. During one of the heaviest battles in the Pacific theater, the Marines landed on Iwo Jima. On March 6, 1945, 28 American P-551 Mustangs and 12 P-61 Black Widow aircraft landed on Iwo Jima, Japan. The 9th Marines tried to gain more ground, but were held down. Private Edward Gill Sr. was killed in action during this battle. He was joined earlier in wedlock on May 18th to Dolores Myers, into which 2 sons became of this union. Edward Jr. and William Allen were both born. At the time of his death, he was 27 years old, and his older son was 3, and his younger son was 18 months. Private First Class Edward Gill entered the service on March 13, 1945 at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, and was sent to Farragut, Idaho, then to California for basic training. He went overseas in July 1944 to Guam. There is where he was stationed when the Battle of Iwo Jima began. When replacements were needed, his division was sent from Guam to Iwo Jima. The last letter received by his mother was dated February 15th, which he told her he would be back, and the letter was written from Guam. He was laid to rest here in the Wright City Cemetery on April 11th, 1948, with full military honors. Funeral services were held at the Evangelical Church here on Sunday afternoon, and Reverend George Hosch in charge and the Nieberg undertakers were in charge of the arrangements. Due to an illness from Reverend Catterjohn, Reverend George Hosch did the arrangements and conducted the services. Military services were held at the cemetery by members of the American Legion and the veterans of foreign wars. Members of the Humphrey Schwartz Post number 2189 served as pallbearers, while members of the American Legion Post number 122 had charge of the service at the cemetery. Sergeant Lloyd Rogan of Kansas City, Missouri, served as the military escort. Besides his 2 sons, he was survived by his mother and father at the time of his death, Mary and William Gill, who lived off of Route 2 here in Wright City. He had 3 sisters, Evelyn, May, and Ora, and 4 brothers, Forrest, a half-brother, Elmer, and William, and Kenneth. He was the oldest son of the family. Elmer and William were also stationed in the Navy at the time of his passing. Dolores his wife, went on to live and passed in 1985 and is buried by his side here in the cemetery. I was unable to locate the Gill family in the 1940 census, but I believe that they were here. Edward Henry Gill Jr. is buried at Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery. He was a U.S. Army corporal that served in Korea. He died in 1992 at the age of 61. There is a William Gill that fits the profile of his other son, who lives currently in High Ridge, Missouri, but I'm unable to confirm that that was his second son. We pray that continued grace and mercy be with the Gill family.